Hey guys, in this tutorial I'm going to show you guys how to use keystroke input, so keyboard input, to actually move a object around and move it in the direction that it is actually facing. So if I rotate this object, if I press forward, I move in that same direction. So with that being said, let's get started. Okay, cool. So the first thing we're going to do is set up our scene. We're going to right click and add a plane, which is a 3D object. And then we're going to scale this up to 100 by 100 by 100. The Y can actually be 1, that's fine. Then what we're going to do is we're going to give this a color. So we're going to right click in the assets. We're going to go down to materials and we're going to name this as plane material. Then we're going to go to its albedo and we're going to select a color. I like that color. We're going to drag this material onto the plane and we're good to go. The next thing we're going to need is a capsule. So we're going to right click in the hierarchy, go down to 3D object and select the capsule. Then we're going to scale this up to 10, 10 and 10. We can also just reset these positions to 0, 0 and 0. I'm going to lift that up a bit. Okay, cool. So the next thing I want is a raycast to point forward so that you can actually see which way this capsule is facing. So let's do that quickly. Let's create this raycast script. So we'll right click in the assets, go to create and go to C# script. And we'll just call this raycast. We'll drag it onto the capsule and double click to open it up in Visual Studio. Okay, so we're going to remove the start function. And then we just need to create a float to store the length of how long we want this raycast to actually be in the debug. So we'll create a public and we'll call this length or raycast length. Then what we're going to do is we're just going to debug.draw ray. So we'll say debug.draw ray, and it's going to take in the position. So the transform.position, and then we need to say which side do we want this ray to be pointed. Then we can say transform.position, or we're just going to say transform.forward actually, and we're going to multiply this by the length, which is the raycast length, and we just want to give this a color, and we'll just give it a color like red, and we'll close it off. So we can head over to Unity and check how this looks. So if I hit play, you'll see that nothing is going to show now because we don't have a length. So let's add like 30, and now you can see our nice ray there, and that's our forward position. So that looks good. Now we can head over and create our move script. So I'm going to right click down in my assets once again. I'm going to create a new C# script, and I'm just going to call this move. I'm going to drag this onto my capsule. Double click to open it up in Visual Studio. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need is a vector 3 to store the start position. So I'll say vector 3 and I'll call this start position of the cylinder, and I also want to reference my actual cylinder. So I'll say public transform and I'll call this transform cylinder. And then in my I'm going to get rid of the start function because I want to do something in my wake function. So as soon as this game is awake, I just need to set the start position. Sorry, this should be start. I'm just going to set it to the transform cylinder dot position. Then I can start creating my first script, and first I want to take care of moving left and right. So let's do that quickly. We can create a private function, private void, and I'll say move. Okay, let's do left and right first. So left right movements. Then the first thing I need is a vector 3. I'm going to call this vector left, and I'm going to equal this to 0 just to zero that out. Then I'm going to say vector left dot x because I want the position on the x-axis, and I'm going to say input dot get axis, and I'm going to pass in horizontal. Okay, so Unity has a built-in input manager which already has this here, and I'll show you that quickly. If we head over to Unity and we head over to the edit tab and go all the way down to project settings. If you look at the input manager and go down to axes, you'll see the horizontal axis or horizontal input already here, and the name is horizontal. It takes care of the left and right. The right keyboard button will move it positive and the left keyboard button will move it negative, and this also has alternate buttons, which is WASD, but I'm just going to take that out. And it has the same for vertical, which handles the forward and back. While I'm here, I'm just going to take that out as well. So let's head over back to our script. The next thing I need is a vector3 to actually store which direction the movement is going to be in, as well as the speed and stuff like that. So I'll just create a vector3. I'll call this v, and I'll say this is equal to a new vector3. And remember, we're working on the x-axis, so we're going to say vec left dot x, and then we're just going to set the other ones to 0.00. Then I'm going to multiply this by time.delta time, just so that it works in real time, and it's happening every frame and every second. It's been updated. And then I'm going to multiply this by 15, and that's just like a speed that I'm just giving it. You can obviously create a const up on top and set something that you like there, but for now that should be fine. Lastly, I need to transform this cylinder or translate the cylinder. To move it, I'm going to say transform cylinder dot translate. I'm going to pass in my vector3, and I need to pass in a space which is relative to, right, as you can see here. And what I want it to be relative to is actually itself. If I say world, so if I say space, you'll see it gives me two options, world and self. I actually want it to be self, and this allows it to actually when I rotate this object, if I move forward again, it's going to move in that direction that the object is facing. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is just call this function up here in the update method. If I save our work, head back to Unity, I just need to reference my transform of my capsule, and I can hit play. And if I move left, there you see my object moves left and my object moves right. And remember, this is the forward position of it, right? So I move right and I move left, and that's pressing on my keyboard left arrow and right arrow. Cool, let's take care of the forward and back movement. So I'm just going to copy this function because it's going to be similar to that. I'm just going to say forward and back. So I'll call this move forward back. I'm just going to rename this to forward, copy that, and this is going to be the z-axis. That's going to be the z-axis, and I'm actually going to cut this out from here, make this equal to 0.0f, and paste that here. Cool, so this works fine, and obviously I just need to change the input to vertical. Save that, and we head over back to Unity. Before we do that, let's just call this function. Head over back to Unity, and we can test this out. If I move forward, you see my object moves forward. If I move back, I can move left, and now I can move right. So the last thing we want to do is actually be able to rotate this this cylinder. So let's take care of that. So once again, I'm just going to copy this function, paste it down here, and I'm just going to say move rotate. I'm going to name this vec rotate. I'm going to change this to y, and I'm going to change this to rotate. Then I'm just going to cut this out and set that to 0.0f, and I'm going to paste this in the y section. I'm going to change this to y, and obviously we need to rename this. Then obviously now we are not translating it, we need to rotate this. So I'll change that to rotate, and everything looks good here. We'll just call this function in our update method, and before we do anything, we still need to create this input in our input manager. So it's called rotate. I'll just copy that. I'll go to my edit, project settings, and I'll just duplicate one of this. I'll rename this to rotate, and I'll use my Z and X button. So my positive is going to be X and my negative is going to be Z. I'll save my work, and I'll just hit play one more time. So now if we try to rotate left, you see we rotate left. If I want to rotate right, and now if I move forward, it's going to move forward in the direction that the capsule is facing, and there you see. If I rotate that way, and I can move back, I can rotate around, Cool guys, so I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please consider subscribing and liking this video. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.